Okay, it looks like we got most everybody here, and I see those questions coming into the question section. So that feature's working well. So let's go ahead and get started. As you guys can see, today's webinar is going to be on planning for fall budgets and billing. I will be co-hosting this with my teammate Shannon Ducker. My name's Hannah Gunderson. But before we get started, I think I'm going to have Shannon just give you a quick little overview of who OmegaFi is and what we do, and then we'll go ahead and get into the budgets and billing.
Thanks, Hannah. For more than 30 years, OmegaFi has provided technology solutions to help customers manage their finances, streamline their operations, recruit new members, and communicate with their members. Whether it's working with 57 different headquarters, local chapters, house corporations, IFC, and Panhellenic councils, or alumni associations across more than 650 campuses, we remain the industry leader when it comes to technology in the fraternity and sorority community. We are based out of Columbus, Georgia, and securely process more than $1.1 million per day for our clients and have securely processed more than $4 billion since 1992. We are deeply committed to serving, promoting, and advancing the fraternity and sorority experience. We aim to make raving fans with every individual or group we work with by reaching, innovating, and acting with agility. We challenge ourselves to dream big every day and to help others achieve their own dreams. To say we're passionate about what we do is an understatement, and it's this passion that has encouraged our clients to trust us to do the heavy lifting so they can focus on their mission and have fun.
Perfect. Thank you, Shannon. So today's agenda, it should be pretty quick for you guys. We're just going to go over budget basics. So what is a budget? The Vault budget tool that is available for you guys to use, and then translating your budget into billing. I know sometimes it can be a little confusing, like how to break that up and things to think about. So we'll go over that, and then I'll just give you guys some quick remaining tips as well as open time for Q&A, so you can just submit those questions and I can go over whatever you need. So before I get started, I just want to give a quick disclaimer that with everything I'm about to show you, it is on our test account. So the names you're going to see aren't real people. Like any of the accounts, all of that's fake. And the way I'm doing this is I'm using really basic numbers like even numbers ending in zero so we can break this up easily. But just know that when you guys go to do your budgets, they're probably going to be a little bit more involved and complex. You're probably going to be working with like bigger amounts of money depending on your chapter size. More people. I have this set up to just pretend we're a chapter of 10 because again, it's just an easy number. I know most chapters um, may be a little bit bigger than that, if not like way bigger if you go to a larger school. So just keep that in mind that what I'm showing you is kind of like a simplified version, and this may take your chapter a little bit more time to go through, and you may have more categories that you're going to need to budget just because you guys have more things going on operationally. So let me switch my screen over to Vault. Give me 1 second. Okay, you should be seeing my screen. Right now we're logged in as Peter. He's the treasurer of our fake chapter. And so the first thing I'm going to go over is just like, what is a budget? I assume most of you know, but if not, that's not a big deal. Sometimes maybe this is like your first round of like serving your chapter as maybe like a president, treasurer, something like that. So basically the budget, what we're doing is for ideally for the upcoming fiscal year or school year, we want to plan, but at a minimum, you guys are at least going to want to do a budget for the upcoming semester. And we're just going to lay out all of the money, all of the income we want to collect from your members, and kind of itemize that into different categories. So if that's going to be for social things, maybe that's for your chapter's rent or meal plans, things like that. And then you're also going to want to list out all the expenses you have planned for the semester. So within that, if you're having events, you know, expenses may be venues or catering, or if you're paying for meal plans, maybe you have to pay, if you have like a chef in-house, you have to pay, maybe it's that. Same with rent, you're going to have to pay your house corporation or whoever um, owns the home you're living in, whether it's your headquarters, maybe like an independent group. So all of those things, we're just going to lay out all of the money you guys expect to get from your members and all of the money you expect to spend. In an ideal world, you kind of want those to zero out. So you guys want to, you know, if we could plan everything you're going to spend this semester and only collect that, That's kind of like the premise, but again, like in reality, you guys may have to be a little more flexible with that just because payments carry over semester to semester, things like that, but we'll go over all of that. So what to include in your budget, things that for the most part, every organization that uses Vault is going to want to consider are Omega 5 fees, no matter, I shouldn't say no matter what. If your national office pays that on your behalf, then you wouldn't have to budget for that. But every chapter is charged Omega 5 fees. You're just going to want to check if that's something that your chapter pays directly or if that's something that gets paid kind of indirectly by your national office, in which I guess you would pay it in a roundabout way through national dues and fees, things like that. But you're going to want to consider Omega 5 fees, merchant discount fees. So those are card processing fees. Those don't go to Omega 5, they don't go to the chapter, they don't go to your national office, they just go to the credit card processors. You can avoid those if you get your members to pay with e-checks, but otherwise, you're always going to be seeing those come out of your or not your budgets, but like the money you're having coming in. Next thing you're going to want to do is national dues and fees. I'm sure all of you have to pay your national office or international office, so you're going to want to put that in your budget. I have this next category kind of as like utilities or rent, but it can be a variety of things. Like think if you have to pay IFC dues to your like fraternity council, or if you have like Panhellenic dues you pay, maybe your university requires like a fraternity and sorority fee. Those vary university to university, but just think like any of those bills that you guys have to pay to make sure your chapter can just function. It also could be things if you guys have a house, so you're paying for Wi-Fi or services, so stuff like that, utilities, fees, rent. And then the last category I have is social. And the reason I listed them in this order is because that kind of is the order that these things will be prioritized and paid. So when you have money coming in, if you have things like deposit splits, which I think if your chapter has one, you should know what they are. But if you have questions, we can always go over those later on what deposit splits are, or we could email you privately about it, what's specifically for your chapter. But with those things, when money comes in, the way it's going to prioritize paying things is it's going to pay that card processing fee and the Omega 5 fee automatically first. After that, it's going to pay your national dues and fees. Then it's going to pay like those things for like rent or meal plan, anything that's going to a deposit split where maybe
Hey,
you're having to
Hannah,
pay these invoices to other
sorry.
people. Oh,
Sorry to interrupt. We're not seeing your screen moving.
okay. Give me 1 second. It may just be we have storms here, so it may be lagging. Give me 1 minute. Now, Shannon.
Yes, we got that.
Okay, so this is kind of where I have like different things put in, but and let me show you guys how I got there really quick. Sorry, I didn't realize it was lagging. So it's under accounting, budget groups, and then it'll just put kind of these categories. So you have up here national dues and fees, operating budget, and social. I will note it's not going to order them in the order that I'm saying because it does it alphabetical, but just I don't know if you have like something you could write it down with, or maybe you just like could take a mental note, but the way it's going to pay things in order will be your Omega 5 fees and merchant discount fees, then your national dues, then things like rent and meal plans will probably give a deposit split. And then under social, where we have chapter dues, kind of a general category, that will go to your chapter. That's the income that's going to be paid last. So if people pay in full, and this will make a little bit more sense when I show you billing, when people pay in full, that order really isn't going to matter because you're just going to get all the money up front. Where this really comes into play is when people make partial payments or on payment plans, then you're just going to want to keep in mind that these things aren't going to be paid, or that they are going to be paid in that order. It's going to prioritize it. So the chapter is going to get kind of that fun money last. So when you're on this chapter budget groups, this isn't required, but it's just kind of like a nice place where you can start organizing those things. So under the national dues and fees category, I have associate dues and fees, national dues and fees. You can see those are the income, and then expense would be national dues and fees again. So those ones match up easier. Sometimes down here, for example, it says chapter dues, that would be the income. It's kind of general, but maybe the expense accounts would be social. So when you guys go to add payments to your vendors, it'll let you pick those expense accounts, and that'll just record on your budget then that it's coming from these categories. This is all editable. So again, it is going to vary chapter to chapter. Even these income accounts, depending on your chapter, may show different things just because different organizations have different charts of accounts. It's not a big deal. It's not better or worse. It's just how your organization likes to organize their income and expenses, but this is where you're going to go to do those things. So I like to make the budget groups just kind of those main categories. So we have like this national dues and fees, operating budget, where we just have rent, Omega 5 fees, accounting fees, which are those merchant discount fees we'll put in as accounting fees. Then down here's social for like those chapter dues. If you wanted, we could maybe add like a special event to this category and it'll show up there. This isn't the same as billing. This is just for your budget. So again, it's more for like you as an officer to be able to organize these things when you go to set up your budget. Now I'm going to show you where you can actually use the tool within Vault. So you're going to go to this accounting tab, click budgets, and then it'll let you click to add a chapter budget. It does take a little bit to go through and add the categories. So I kind of started one just for time's sake. But another little disclaimer I want to give here is depending on your national organization, you may have been given like a budget you have to fill out or something like that, in which case, if you don't have to submit it through Vault, you have the option to input it here, but you don't have to do this. This is just a tool to help you organize your chapter. So if you have this budget created elsewhere, maybe you have it in Excel spreadsheet, that's fine. If you have to do it, like I said, with your national organization, you submit it to them and they approve it, that's fine as well. This is just a tool you can use to start creating that budget for your chapter. So since this is a test account, there's no requirements. There's really no national office because it's just Omega Phi, so we can kind of do whatever we want with it. So I'm just going to click this pen tool, and you'll see up here there's a budget detail, your expenses, your income, and then review and approve is where you can go over everything. So under the budget detail, I just called it the 2023-2024 budget. You can see it starts July 1st and it'll end the very last day of June of next year. So that would be this chapter's fiscal year, and we're just going to want to make sure we lay out the income and expenses for that. If you wanted to add notes, you can add notes down here, whatever you think could be useful. And then it'll have you go, when you're initially setting it up, it'll take you through these subsections first. But like I said, I already went in and did it. So this is just going to create those budget groups that I just showed you. And then this questionnaire pretty much just asked you if you are a chapter that has a house, if you're going to be paying for things like rent or not. It's one question, and then you'll click save and continue. It'll take you to this expense page. So on this expense page, we kind of have these categories right here. So these were the 3 that I made for the webinar. Again, I'm just trying to keep it easy and not spend too much time on like the specific numbers since it's just going to vary so much chapter to chapter. But I do want to show you that down here on categorized, if you don't include an income account in one of those budget groups, it'll still exist. You can still use it. So it's not a requirement to put them in a group for you to be able to use it. Those will just all be under these like uncategorized sections, but you can still fill in with different numbers based on like what you think you may spend in those areas. And then eventually you'll see on the income, it'll be the same. So the way this tool works is you'll see this little calculator. So for the national dues and fees, I clicked this calculator button. And then basically up here, it'll let you add a line. So I already did it, but you can put the description. I said national dues and fees. And remember, we're doing the expenses. So that's how I was filling it in. So national dues and fees, we'll say it was $100 per member. So that's the invoice you're going to get from your national office. They're going to say $100 per member. And this chapter we're pretending has 10 members. So that will do the multiplication for you. And then you can just check whatever month that invoice will be due. So for this fake chapter, I said that maybe in September is when this national office will bill them and that's when they have to pay it by. So I just checked the box right here, and then you can just click save to budget and it'll go back right here under your expenses and you'll see it says $1,000. And so that's what I did for all of these. For rent, I'm going to show you this one as well because I kind of split it up. So rent, we're going to say it was $500 a month per person. Everybody in this chapter lives in the house, again, to make it easy. But instead of it just being 1 month, this is an expense that'll happen August, September, October, November, because maybe that's when the house is open for people to live in. So I checked all these boxes. And so that way it is showing me that each month we're going to have a $5,000 expense as a chapter for rent, and then I'll save it to the budget. It's going to bring me back, and then it'll show you the total for the year, or for the semester in this case, because I didn't put it for the whole year. But it'll show you, if you want to do your budget for the year and you put it in, it'll show you those totals here. So I know for the semester, I need to at least get $1,000 from my members to cover national dues and fees. I'm going to have to get $20,000 total for my members to cover rent. For the accounting fees, I had this kind of as a combo of Omega-Fi fee and the merchant discount fee. I used easy numbers. I used $10, so that's why that's just $100. And then for social, they have a budget of only $5,000 that they're going to have to get from their members. So now we know how much money the chapter is going to be spending. So I went over to the income. It is going to have you scroll down and click continue to next step. And now we're going to scroll back up. So it's at the income. And so this, you're basically just going to want to try to balance it out so you have enough money coming in to cover those expenses. So for national dues and fees, it was easy. I set it up the exact same way. I didn't put into consideration any associate dues and fees because I'm just going to assume maybe they're not doing recruitment, but this is something that maybe your chapter could put a guesstimate in. Maybe if you are going to have a pledge class of 50 men or women, you could put that in, you know, the associate dues and fees are, just to kind of get an idea. But maybe after recruitment, your pledge class was maybe a little bit less, like maybe you got 45 men or women and you need to adjust your budget. You can always go back here and click that pen tool like I did, and then it'll let you go in here and you can click the calculator tool and it'll let you edit the number of people or the charges like that. So it's going to have me cancel because I didn't actually change anything. Return to a budget without applying. So just know that these things are flexible, but it's good just to get an initial idea. So I left that part blank. I don't think they're going to have new members, we'll say. And so now I'm just saying we're going to have $1,000 of income for national dues and fees, this $20,000 for rent, Omega-Fi fees, I need $100 worth, and chapter dues and fees, we're going to need a total of $5,000 from our members. So once we go through this, we're going to go to the next page, continue. And then you'll see here that our total income is going to be a little over $26,000 and our total expenses, $26,000, leaving us with no net income. That's good. Again, yours may vary a little bit just because you can't know exactly how things are going to go, which eventually is where this last year actual amount will come into play. When you go up here, I'll show you really quick under accounting, and you go to these like income statements, it'll let you show budget versus actual, so you can keep up with your chapter as the year goes on. So if you budgeted how I had $5,000 in social expenses for the chapter, but maybe your chapter or this chapter spends over that and their expenses in social will be $6,000, it'll show it when I run this report. Nothing's going to show up because it's a test account. Oh, maybe it will because we have some fake numbers, but it'll show right here, like this is the amount the chapter is negative because they haven't gotten any income yet, but it'll let you keep up with it that way. So just again, going back to budgets, showing you how you can edit it as things go on in the semester. Maybe you have to add charges because things are more expensive with inflation. You didn't plan for it. You can charge your members more and then go in and adjust your budget. You'll just click that pen tool and it'll take you back to the same page to walk you through it. So that's the really quick version of how to do that. Again, you may not use this tool at all. You maybe have something else that you're doing it on. It's fine. Something I do want to let you know is a question we would get commonly is people would make their budgets on Excel, which is great. It like works the same, but then they'll ask how they can import their Excel budget into Vault. And we currently, we do not have a way to do that. So if you wanted to take your Excel budget or budget, maybe if you had like a budget worksheet and put it into Omega-Fi, you're going to have to manually do it. It's not going to automatically upload that for you. So you just have to click add a chapter budget. But now that we have this, I'm going to click this little tool right here, view budget reports. I just want to see my budget detail itemized because it's going to help me when I set up my billing. And I'm going to choose to do it as a PDF just to make it easier because it's going to open in another tab for me. So here I can see that budget I made. It has it broken down by month because those are the months that I checked when I made it. but I don't have to commit to this. I can, if I wanted to charge members in full, if they wanted that, I can do that even though this income is broken up month by month, or I could keep it as a payment plan. It's not a big deal either way. It's up to you, but this is just going to give us those totals we want. So rent, $20,000. Again, chapter dues, $5,000, national dues, $1,000, and then the $100. So let's go back here and we're going to go to billing to translate this budget that we just made into our billing. So we're going to go to billing overview, and then I'm going to click to set up billing. So we do not have fall billing set up for this chapter yet. So term fall, the year is 2023. The first due date, I want it to be the 1st of August. Oh, it may be a little close. So we'll make it maybe the 15th of August. And then my chapter is going to have 3 days to pay after that due date to avoid the late fee. That's the grace period I'm going to give them. So we'll leave that at 3 days. I'm going to click next. Edit charges, it'll always have you copy over. It kind of just gives you a good baseline, but you'll still be able to edit this, so don't worry. Something I'm going to show you really quick, because I use those easy numbers on the budget. Right now it's showing all these billing groups, but we're going to pretend this new member and senior group doesn't exist, and I'm just going to work between the active and inactive payment plan, just for time's sake, so you guys aren't watching some like grueling billing setup that can take a while. I'm sure you've experienced. So like edit charges. And what I'm going to do is scroll down here, and I want to get rid of all these old ones because I'm maybe the new treasurer and I didn't think the way we did things last year really worked. So we're just going to start fresh. I'm going to get rid of insurance. Actually, I can do it quicker like this, can't I? So we're going to keep Omega 5 fees, national dues. I'm going to get rid of IFC, but I will leave this accounting fees. So this, we're thinking again, is like per member, so we have to translate our budget. We have a chapter of 10. This is my active billing group. So they're going to get charged everything in full, and then later I'm going to do the payment plan. So if we're looking at this for the semester, it's going to be $20,000 for rent. So we're going to take that amount. Let me pull up my calculator, because even though it's easy numbers, I just am not in the space to do mental math right now. Okay, so $20,000 for the semester. We're going to divide that by the 10 members. So that's $2,000. This group, again, they wanted to pay it all in full. So we'll do it like, oh wait, give me 1 second. Yeah, 2,000. Okay. So that, and I put it in the wrong spot. We need to add a rent spot. Okay, so we added the charge. So we're adding rent. We're going to use this income account rent, and then this is going to be $2,000 because there's 10 members again. We're going to go down here, chapter dues. So if it's 5,000 for the semester, dividing that by 10 again, we're going to have 500. So for chapter dues, we'll put the 500 in here, and then we're just going to keep going through this. So for the national dues, I remember we said it was $100 a member, and then the Omega 5 fee we have is 10. Now, something I'm going to show you really quick with this accounting fee, the reason I leave it for the end is because this is something, since it's card processing, we have like a little equation to kind of make up for it. Now, if you want to just use a round number, like an easy number, you can go ahead and do that to cover those card processing fees. But what I'm going to do is you're going to take the total down here, and you're going to take that like 2610, and you're going to multiply it by 0.0305, I believe, and then it'll give you what the card processing fee would be. So in this case, it's $79.60. I always wait till the end to do that because you want to know exactly how much is going to come out. And now that I know this, you could go back to your budget and add to that accounting fee section of income and expenses, because we know what it's going to be. To avoid this fee, again, you can have your members pay with an e-check. And if this is on the schedule of charges, you can either give them a credit to forgive them that since they didn't use their credit card, or this will just be additional income for the chapter. So if I went in and I paid this amount and I paid with an e-check, the credit card fee obviously isn't going to come out. That's not going to go to the card processor. So now the chapter basically gets an additional $80 that they can use towards whatever budget they want. So don't think if you schedule this and you have a mix of people that you're going to lose the money regardless. Like any extra money you collect will go to the chapter. So it's nice just to build that in and know you guys are covered in case you do have a lot of members paying with card, even if they maybe initially said they were going to pay with e-check. Okay, so we're going to go here. We're going to save that. And now I'm going to scroll up, and for this active payment plan, we're going to edit the charges, and it should let us copy from another billing group. So I'm going to do it from the actives. And what we're going to do is break this up. Now, this is where I'm going to give you guys like something to think about a little bit. In theory, it's like a nice idea, right? Just, oh, it's like 4 cycles. We can break it up evenly over 4 for each of these. And that can work if your chapter has like a little bit of flexibility in your budget. Like maybe you plan to get more income than you plan on spending. That'll give you some breathing room. But if you have a lot of people on a payment plan, what you're going to have to think about is if we broke all of these up, like for example, this, we have the 25, 25, 25, and 25. It's $100. The chapter is going to get their money. But if you remember, the chapter has to pay their invoice on the 2nd, and there's not going to be enough money available within that budget to cover it, because for the members in this payment plan, you haven't collected $100 from them yet. You've only collected 50. So what's going to have to happen to keep, your chapter in good standing is you would have to split these up maybe 50-50, so that money is paid by the time your invoice is due. But what that's going to cause you to have to then do if you're trying to make these even payments over 4 cycles is maybe you're going to collect less in chapter dues this cycle, and you're going to have to charge them more in the chapter dues category over here. So you're going to have to balance it out. Again, it's not a big deal if your chapter can do that. Maybe you have your social event at the end of the year, so it doesn't matter. But if you're a chapter that's doing social events, you need that social budget every single month, you're going to run into issues where even though your members are paying, you guys are going to be short because all this money is going to go to your national dues to cover it, and you're not going to have this money coming from chapter dues until later in the semester. So what I generally say is one of 2 things. If it's only a few people that are going to be on a payment plan, just like budget with a little bit of excess. It's always better to have more money than less money. My chapter in college, we always did it with excess. And so what we did is whatever money we had left over at the end of the year from that excess, as well as money maybe we collected from like fines for missing chapters, late fees, all of that extra stuff, we just had in a fund. And then we, if we had enough money, we threw like an extra, we called them functions. We had an extra function at the end of the year. So it was always kind of a surprise if there wasn't enough excess coming in, maybe not enough people paid their dues on time, then we just wouldn't have an extra function. It wasn't a big deal. It's not like it was a loss. It was more of a treat if we had the extra stuff. So I would say when you're looking at this, instead of doing your budget the way I did it, even though this is basic, unless you know your members are fully going to pay on time the exact amount every single time, no issue, I would maybe have your income be a little bit higher than what your expenses are and make sure you're collecting in these categories. So like prime example is the national dues, make sure you're getting that money up front early in the semester. So when September and October rolls around, when you have to pay your national office, you can pay that and still have money as a chapter, even if you have members who haven't logged in and paid or you have members on a payment plan. So those are just things to keep in mind. I can't give you like a definite answer of the best way to do it because every chapter is so unique based on size and things you're responsible for paying, but those are things you're really just going to want to consider to make sure you guys are able to function and not having to maybe panic add extra charges throughout the semester because you have something to pay and the money's not there. So the best way to do it would be that way. Another thing I'm going to go over just as like a quick tip with you guys is with this Omega Phi fee. Let me actually even this out really quick because I feel like it'll be a better example. We'll do 250 here. Oh, wait, I think I overdid that, didn't I? What was our amount for chapter dues? 5,000. Okay. Yeah, I did. I was thinking it was higher than it is. We're doing 125. And sorry, I know this is like a little bit long to watch, but we just have to do this so there's a better example. Once these are divvied up over the different cycles, I'm leaving this in cycle 1, the Omega Phi fee. What you're again going to have to do is edit this amount. You probably can just divide it by 4, it'd be the same. It's a percentage, but you're going to want to go through and make sure you get the correct percentage for each thing. The other thing I want to show you is, let's say, I'm going to make this amount really low because it's the only way this example will work. So let's say cycle 1 was $35. Your Omega 5 fee that you pay per member is $10. The way that is going to get paid is by taking 10% of each member payment. So something you have to consider in your budget, if you just have everything in cycle 1 and 10% of what you charge in cycle 1 is not enough to cover the whatever your Omega 5 fee is, $10, you're going to have to make sure you reserve that money in your operating fund. And I know this is a little confusing because Omega 5 fees are a little bit back and forth, but just know, like in this scenario, let's say there were no other dues. This is all you're going to charge your members for the semester. You have this $35. Although you will collect $10 for the Omega 5 fee, it's not going to automatically draft it out like we have the system set up to do it. Somebody's going to pay this $35 and we're only going to collect $3.50. So the chapter is going to have the remainder of this amount in their operating fund, but just know that if you're going to set up your budget where 10% isn't going to cover your Omega 5 fee, do not look at like your operating fund or your external bank account, wherever that money goes, and think, oh, sweet, that's all my spending money, because part of that will be the remainder of the Omega 5 fee you have to pay at the end of the semester. So it pays itself off 10% of each member payment until the cap amount's met, then we turn it off, and that's due by the very last day of cycle 4. So if you had a leftover balance just with the way the 10% worked, once cycle 4 is done, you're going to have like a negative balance on your account, and then it's not a big deal. I know negative balance sounds scary, but it's just saying like that's what you owe for the remainder of the year. And then what will happen is you'll either be able to see it when you look at your, I can show you the page. You'd be able to see it under the accounting tab, and then you go to account registers. It'll be under the Omega-Fi register. This one's not going to have anything because it's a test account, but this bottom would show like a negative balance. You'll know what you'll owe, or your the client ops person that your team works with. So like the person with the Omega-Fi that you're going back and forth with, asking all your questions, they'll just send you a text and say like, hey, maybe you guys still owe remaining like $50 for the Omega-Fi fee for the semester. Do you want us to take it out of your operating fund, or do you want to like submit a payment through a form from your external bank account so you can pay it that way? But it's just something to keep in mind. Again, if when you're setting up billing, that 10% isn't, it has to cover that Omega-Fi fee. If you have more questions on that, I know, again, it's a little confusing. It may be easy. I can go over them, but it may be easy too if you reach out to your client ops specialist, just because they'll be able to give you the rundown of what that amount is exactly for your chapter. If it's like $37, $40, it kind of varies based on your chapter size, things like that. But they'll be able to go over that with you when you submit a budget, or if you want to ask them and say like, hey, I made my budget. Do you mind looking this over really quick to make sure that my Omega-Fi fee is going to pay off automatically? You can do it that way too, just because it is, I think, a lot to take in over a webinar, but it is something you can just keep in mind. The last thing I wanted to show you really quick was going here when we, oh wait, excuse me. Yes, it's under here. I'm sorry. So when we go to this member list by billing group, something you can keep up with as well are these like leftover balances. So again, you could have like your income and expenses done perfectly, but a quick way to make sure that you're actually getting the income you budgeted for is to look here. And ideally, I think this is kind of a given, but I always like to show it just in case you don't know. Where you can see this is to look at this and make sure that people's balances are paid. So if it's like the day after the due date, you're going to want to look at these balances, make sure they're paid. These aren't real people. So obviously there's no one to submit a payment. We just have these fake charges going on their account when we use them for training. But you want these zeroed out. If you see a lot of balances here, you may want to start reaching out to your members, of course, but also you may want to look at your budget and make some adjustments. So if you have like a lot of balances starting to build up, you're going to have to look at your budget and prioritize those initial things I had showed you. So those Omega-Fi fees, the national dues and fees, rent, and then maybe some of your social budget's going to get cut until those things get paid, because these balances need to be paid off for your budget to work as you guys designed it. So those are the main things I wanted to go over. Let me switch back to my PowerPoint. I'm going to show you just some contact information really quick. And then you guys can screenshot that, take a picture. You may already have it, but like I was saying before, if you want to start making these budgets, then ask questions or have people review it, you have these different contact options. So we have our email. You can email that whenever. The phone, those have kind of normal business hours. So like 8:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. We're Eastern time. Like Shannon said, we're based in Columbus, Georgia. So we're in the Eastern time zone. So you can call anytime between then. There's always people on queue to take your call. They can go over whatever you need. You also have this texting option. So this works like a normal texting number. You can text it as many times as you want. It's going to go to your client ops person and they'll be happy to answer. The only thing to keep in mind is it does go to their work laptops. So if it's the weekend, most people, I would say, don't work on the weekend. They aren't ignoring you. They'll just see it right away on Monday, but don't let that stop you. Like if things come up, just send the questions. You can double text, triple text, whatever you need. Send them so you don't forget. And then that way Monday, when everybody comes in the office, they can go through, text you back, give you an answer to your questions and go over things. And then the last thing is that Get Help section. We're always adding articles that you guys can go over. So I'm going to switch actually back to Vault to show you how to find that. But you can go to this Get Help section and it's full of stuff. So you're going to click Get Help. It takes you to this page. It's searchable. So I believe there is a section on budgets actually. So we can go here. You can type in budget. We have 14 different articles that relate to budgets in some way. So you can go through and look at those, see if they answer your questions. That could be another great way to find things. The other thing that's really cool about this Get Help section is all these webinars, including the one I'm doing right now, we do upload to this videos and webinar section. So you can always refer back to these trainings, previous trainings, whatever you want here. It'll be under videos. There's short ones and then the webinars are all down here. So you can go through. That's the one that we did earlier this year. They're all listed for you to watch. So that is available to you guys. And then they link to our YouTube channel. So if you're on YouTube, you can also just look up Omegafy and find our channel to get that training help. I'm going to ask Shannon really quick. I know you've been watching the questions, but have you had any come through that you think would be good to show maybe on the screen or like walk through?
The only one that really came through that I think would be beneficial to everyone is somebody asked how the Omegafy fee is calculated. Can't really show, but we can explain that the total owed by your chapter to Omegafy for the semester is calculated on the day cycle one statement's mailed for the term, and we calculate that fee based on the number of active members on your roster. So that's why it's very important that you make sure your roster is up to date prior to that first statement mailing for the term, because you don't want to be overcharged for members that are no longer actively participating in your chapter.
Yes, exactly. And I think I can show too, like this one's not going to have specific information for your chapter, but once cycle one goes out, if you go under this accounting tab and you click Vault billing fee, a box will show and it'll give you a breakdown. So summer, we don't charge an Omegafy fee, but let me maybe get back to fall. Oh, this one's old. So this one's not, since it's a test account, it's still not set up. It's showing as percentage. But what will happen in this box is it'll say term, and then billing method will probably be like per member per semester. So this box will have a breakdown of the number of active members you guys have, what the per member fee is, and then it'll show you what you're going to owe for the semester. So it'll say like for the semester for X amount of members, you're going to owe this. Something to keep in mind too, which I remember I used to get questions about this, is when it shows you like in this box, it'll show you it or break it down for you in two ways. One will show you the semester fee and one will show you the monthly fee. Those are just two different ways of looking at it. So it's not like you have to pay whatever amount it shows for the semester on top of a monthly fee. It's just either or, whatever way you prefer, or looking at like what you guys are going to owe if you want to break it down monthly or by the semester. But it'll all be under this Omegafy section, and it'll be specific for your chapter. But if that is everything, I'm going to go back to this slide again. If you need to write any of this down, you can. If you want to screenshot it, you maybe already have it. You can save that text number in your phone. It's not going to change. So that way you can just text your person whenever you need. But if questions come up after maybe you start working on your budget, whether it's one given to you by your headquarters or if it's just the budget tool in Vault, you can always reach out to us and then we'll be happy to go over anything that you have come up or anything not relating to budget. So don't be afraid to reach out. We're always happy to help. And we'll be sending you a recording of this webinar probably in a few days or so. I can't remember the exact day, but just expect that to come in your inbox and you can review everything if you need to. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining, and be in touch if you need anything.